want to get this game out kind of sooner rather than later, obviously. So because of that, we've started reaching out to these different development teams. We had about, I think, 37 applied for what we had requested. And then we found like an additional like 20 or so. We've narrowed those down all the way down to one finally. And we've actually started them on our UI design. So here in the next week or so, hopefully we'll start seeing some actual UI updates and start rolling those out to everybody. The game itself, for those of you that have actually looked at any of the content, the videos and stuff that we've put out, the game itself is going to undergo a very drastic visual change because, as we've said in most of the videos, or at least had it notated, almost every one of the visuals, including the UI, was temporary. Almost everything's going to get a massive overhaul visually and look much better, assuming, of course, your opinion is the same as most people's.
So, I kind of just got in here, and from the looks of it, no offense or anything, but it kind of looks like a ROK type style game. But instead of alliances, it looks like you'll have your own factions going on. What's up with that?
So basically, we'll still have alliances like you're familiar with in other games. You've got alliances, you've got guilds, stuff like that. The difference is we're having a faction system also built into the game, which means instead of you having what you have in Rise of Kingdoms and a lot of these other games where you've got like a player that takes over the capital and now they're the leader of the server, that tends to lead to this really annoying sort of dictatorship and sort of a lot of
like a whole faction leads it.
Yeah, so instead you're going to actually have AI that lead the factions, not players. And the players choose between those factions that they want to work for. Basically, you're going to help that faction grow. And it's going to basically force a larger number of players to work together towards a common goal. And then within that faction, you'll have your guilds. And that'll be your smaller, tighter knit group of people. And we're working through some.
So it's basically kind of makes me think of For Honor, simply. I don't know why. It just kind of reminds me of that, like with the factions, and you represent one faction, but you're all from different areas.
Yeah, I didn't play that one. I think, but almost like.
Well, For Honor is a console game. I don't know if you've ever played it.
Yeah, I think of it almost like World of Warcraft, where that's a pretty common reference most people are at least somewhat familiar with. You had your horde, you had your alliance, and then within that you had your guilds. And each faction worked towards a common goal together. They may still compete guild versus guild for, certain rewards or whatever, but ultimately they were on the same side. It's the same sort of concept, except I've never liked the one-on-one aspect of that. I feel like it really messes up the dynamic because inevitably one side's always stronger than the other from one server to the next. So you'd have one server where everyone's like, yeah, the alliance destroys everybody. Then you have another server where like, yeah, the horde destroys everybody. So when you throw in a third, then you kind of offset that to where as soon as one side is the prominent side, the other two are more inclined to team up on that one and take it down a notch. So it allows a little bit more balance there. So that's part of the reason we've set it up that way. So does that kind of cover your question?
Yeah, that covers my question a bit over what I was expecting.
Okay.
Not that it's a bad thing, but So what's with the graphics? Because I heard you say something. I looked at a video meanwhile y'all were talking at the start.
Yeah.
And you said you're gonna change them. Like, what's that change gonna be?
Yeah, the units and stuff that you actually see in the video marching, those are also just temporary assets. So we've shared some of the concept art, and we've actually shown in some other videos before, some streams and stuff, some of the actual models for some of the stuff that we have done. But yeah, that's basically it. Is everything that you see visually in the actual like gameplay footage, where we're just testing mechanics, that's going to as far as a visual aspect. Some of the mechanics themselves, of course, because we're still developing, are going to probably get tweaked or changed or whatever as we go through. and that stuff, we usually try to reach out to everybody and get some feedback depending on what it is or why it is that we want to change it. So I'm going to get Joseph Meyer in here if you are good, Mushu, so he can ask whatever he's wanting to ask.
Yeah, just one last thing. I don't know if you take recommendations for characters, but I've noticed a lot of your characters, and one thing I would suggest, I don't know, I'm just kind of just out of the ordinary. I don't know how your characters work, if they're like mythical or something, but I would say to do some type of samurai. The samurai would look cool. Yeah, like a dead samurai or something, that would kind of look decent. I don't know, you just have a lot of younger, middle-aged people that are kind of into that type of stuff. Because I could definitely draw a lot of people in if I showed them. Because I've already showed some of my friends as I've joined some of the characters, and they're thinking about joining.
It's good to know. Yeah. The other side of that too to consider is part of our monetization method is skins and aesthetics, similar to like League of Legends or Fortnite. Very similar concept. So a lot of what you're going to see us actually come out with will be things like that that can completely not really fit with the story or the environment necessarily, just like you see in those other games where it's some random kind of silly thing, right? So that's even a possibility that maybe it becomes a skin rather than a character, or maybe it does become a character. It's So let me pop Joseph up here real quick. I'm gonna throw you back in the audience, Mushu. I appreciate it. Oops. Let's. Sorry, I gotta remember where the option was. I got it. There we go. Joseph, you'll have to unmute your mic, and then you should be good.
Hello, how you guys doing? I'm doing all right. Yeah, it's first time listening to your guys' live stream updates and questions, and yeah, I like it already. Yeah, I have a few questions. I played War Commander off Facebook. It's a Kixeye game. I played that for like 8 years, and that game is kind of like what we got right now. A bunch of different sectors or servers, and then you could have 200 players per team, and you could have up to like 1,500 or 2,000 people per sector or server. And then someone started making cheat codes and everything. So everyone was using cheat codes. And then there was millions of people playing War Commander. It was kind of fun. And then once they got rid of the cheat codes for like instant repair, like resources, they dropped off like 1.5 million players in 24 hours.
Oh,
Because
wow.
it was kind of a big thing. And yes, those people with the trainers that had that, they had an advantage. You had like unlimited tanks, planes, soldiers. You had unlimited everything. And it was when you're battling servers that had that, like it was kind of fun because you beat them, they beat you. You go repair, they go repair. You beat them, and I think the biggest hassle right now that I hear from a lot of the different servers is the tickets. You need so many tickets to be able to transfer to a server. And in War Commander, it was $5. It was 100 coins. You were stuck there for 1 week, and you just had to suck it up. Like if you spent the 100 coins, jump to a server or a sector, and you just got smoked. You just have to shield up and shield up every day.
Yeah, realistically, we'll probably end up with a few, but it will be a low number. Yeah, I mean, our anticipation is we're working with AWS, which is a server that allows scaling, and it's Amazon, so of course, their stuff's quite good. They have lots of money. So the whole intention there is for it to be scalable. So we want to get away from the issues you have, which a lot of people don't really catch when you talk about a game like Top War, which Coolstro is not particularly familiar with, I know a lot of people in here are, but not everyone. When you talk about Top War, though, they do the same thing most of these games do. They design the game in such a way that it actually makes PvP almost pointless. So in a game like Top War, you get to a point with every server, if they want to be strong, they don't do KE, or they do KE in this really weird selective way. And nobody PvPs any other time of the week other than this one day a week. And everybody's waiting to build up for this group event for their server to go fight this other server. How stupid is that in a war game? Like, that is a innately poorly designed mechanic. And it hinders all the players that actually want to play for combat. So you're used to Top War, Rise of Kingdoms, whatever. Build times, repair times, all that stuff takes a while unless you spend money. Top War isn't too bad in that respect compared to a lot of other games as far as time to rebuild. Cost, when you start talking about things like Valhalla, gets a little crazy from what I've heard. I quit before getting to that point. Thank
It's
God.
all money, man. It's
Yeah.
a lot of money.
Yeah, so I stayed VIP 0, so no money from me.
I sorry about that. When I started playing Top War,
Yeah.
my brother passed away 3 years ago, so I stopped playing War Commander. I built a monster base. It was level 50. I think the highest in there's like 55 now. I just haven't played it. It's just me. So I wanted to like play something just to like, pass times. My brother, my mom passed away within like 4 months of each other.
Oh, wow.
So I'm a firefighter. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. I'm a firefighter. I'm Ninja Boss. I fight wildland fires. I get like 140 days out in the summer all over the States. I just, want to do something when I come off the line. I'm in my tent for an hour before I go to bed. I just want to do something. So I tried Armyman Strike. It was kind of fun. I was in a server. This one team pretty much dominated the whole freaking server. A ton of people quit. If you didn't join them, you were getting attacked nonstop, where then you just want to quit because you're tired of getting attacked. So I stopped playing that game, and I played a couple games for a little bit. I got off it. It was boring. Then I started playing Top War, thinking it was a free game. It was kind of fun. I thought the ad showed you were out attacking little islands, then you build island, then you like. So basically, I got sucked in. It was totally different, and
That's most
I
people.
started. Yep. So then I started playing a little bit of. I started spending a little bit of money. I started getting things. Well, 9 months into this game, I've actually spent $45,000, and I even missed 5 months while I was fighting fire.
Ow.
So it's this Top War game is nothing but a money game. Like, you have to spend money to be a top player or be one of the top players in your server. And I can't go back at that. I can't be like, oh man, it is what it is. I make really good money, so I'm okay with it. But I thought it was going to be a free game, but it wasn't.
So that kind of goes back to sort of really why we're. So that's kind of the innate flaw, is these games are designed that way. They're all, and I know when people see me talk about it now, especially since we're doing this and I carry the FTP Revolution logo as my profile picture, I'm sure people are like, oh, he's just whinging on to try to recruit people. But I've said this for a long ass time, that these games are designed poorly. They're designed very lazily. Like, it is incredibly lazy, the amount of actual development or design work, I should say, that it goes into these games. And if you really look at what they actually are putting into these and how creative they are compared to others, it's minimal. I mean, it is very minimal. And it's really unfortunate because the genre itself has a very good appeal and draw, has a great player base that's interested in it. Like, so many of us love strategy games, and we all, at least most of us anyways, look for that one that's a little more free to play than the other. And no matter what, every one of them you get into is the same freaking way, with very few exceptions. There's a couple that are not quite as much as others. So to go back to your question about getting attacked and all that, we have a safe zone planned, which means every faction will have a safe zone. If you're in the safe zone, you're basically in a giant bubble. Everyone in the safe zone cannot be attacked, cannot participate in PvP in any way other than potentially in the arena system when we built that in, which we would like to see that during beta and then at launch, obviously. But other than that, they do not PvP at all. The only exception to that is we plan to have like caravans. Basically, you can send resources to other players in your faction. So you can send them from your base out to players in your faction. Well, that caravan, so to speak, you can send troops with. If you're in the safe zone, all you can do is defend, which means when you send that caravan, if somebody tries to intercept it, all you can do is defend. You cannot use it to attack anything. Like, that's the plan. That's not coded in. We'll see how it works, but that is the plan. So those people are good. The people in the field, the PvPers that really want to go out there and really get into it, those people, when we start talking about AI playing the game, we're going to obviously adjust the numbers so that it's not like the AI is playing on a 1-to-1 scale with the player who has to sleep and the AI never does. That would be just ridiculous. The other side of that is there's more than one group of AI. So we have an AI faction that's quote unquote bad. That AI faction, so to speak, is going to obviously try to fight the other factions. So there's a total of 4 factions, 3 for players, 1 for strictly AI. They're all after controlling different points and basically ruling all of the land of Mythos. And there's a lot of story and stuff that will start coming out with more of that as we are healthier again. But as far as that goes, then there's also, we showed in some previous content, some videos with elementals. So there's other creatures and things that will be in the world that will also fight those AI. So it won't just be like all the AI versus all the players and all the players are fighting each other. There's going to be AI fighting AI also. Your AI that are on your side, your faction, will also be producing units and sending them out. So they may also attack other players. Like, if that's assuming we can get all this the way we plan, that is the plan. We're working with, like we said at the start of this, and I know not everyone was in here, we're working with some development companies now. I say some. We're working with one now. We narrowed it down from like, I don't know, 40 something or whatever. It was 37 that applied, not counting the ones we found. So anyways, there was like 50 or so, whatever, that we narrowed it down to. So we started working with that one, moving forward there. And we'll see. We'll see how far we can take it, how much of this we can really build in the way we intend to. The other thing is your unit rebuilding. As it stands, we went back and forth on it. We don't plan to have hospitals at launch. There will be no repair. A unit dies, it's dead. But your build time is dramatically faster and less expensive because we want to encourage that fairly constant combat. Not so much that there's no downside to losing or getting zeroed. Obviously, there needs to be some drawback, right? Yeah, and one of the other things we've talked about fairly early on, and I think everybody here, no matter what game you've played, I've not actually played The Walking Dead, so Mal or Narugo, and I think Sogan also, all 3 of you guys can speak on that. But all the other games I've ever played, they all do their weekly events where they've got, the daily event every day, and it's like, oh, build the most buildings and gather the most resources and kill the most AI and kill the most players. They always have those events. Like, every one of them does. They all follow that same stupid model. What I don't like about that, which I realize is going to frustrate some players, and that's fine. What I don't like about it is somebody will always win those things fairly consistently because that person's going to like super plan for it, super bust their ass and be on all day. And you're like, I'm a guy that has a kid, like kids and a job. I can't compete in that. And
Yep.
And while on the one hand, life's not fair, we get that. At the same time, we want to do as much as we can to balance stuff. So our thought process for that early on, and we'll see, again, all this is subject to change. But basically, instead of doing that, if you follow that same model, instead you say, okay, on this Monday, it's going to be a gathering event and it's going to be a kill event. And you can't win both. Like, you just won't be able to. So when you stack stuff like that, then there's going to be more variation, right? Where you'd be like, okay, there's a kill event and there's a PvE event. It's like, well, crap. Now I got to pick which one I want to do. So yeah, there's stuff like that we're talking about. We haven't set any of that in stone. None of that's been like pushed in a really serious, hardcore way. The main focus right now, we have a lot of design work done. We have a lot of specifics within that work to really hash out and really break down and refine. Now that we're working with this development team, that's starting to get pushed heavily. So very quickly, the timeline we're getting is pretty tight, which is fantastic. It means we should be seeing, we should be able to give everybody an actual realistic timeline with a lot more guarantee and certainty pretty soon. We're working out some details of the milestones right now. With Kickstarter, we determine how long they last. So our intention is probably to do it about a month, because a lot of times the ones that run a shorter duration are more likely to be successful, but you want to have them posted for people to follow for at least a month to 2 months. And we had planned to do that back in like October, and we put it off because we were waiting for our alpha to be able to have the proof of concept. Well, like we were saying early on in this, and Mewtwo, sorry, I will pull you into this in just a second, and just I'll kick you back to the audience in just a minute. But we were talking at the beginning of this about Nowji had a bunch of stuff going on, been very busy, just honestly lost a lot of time. And that's what's caused a lot of kind of the rolling delay in us getting to that alpha that we kept saying, hey, it's coming, because it should be. But we just had a big delay there and a big problem. So in an effort to kind of help free him up and actually get back on track with setting some goals and being able to set some real deadlines, we figured the best thing to do is actually get a team on board that has done this sort of thing before, that we can work with hand in hand. And it should just make the whole process go smoother. And of course, we'll have to see what they give us, but we've looked at a lot of their work and they've done some really good stuff. Joseph, if you are good on questions for now, I'm going to kick you back to audience and pull Mewtwo up, assuming Coolstra is also good.
Sounds good, guys. Just I've played a lot of games like everyone else, and characters, if they're really good characters, they bring in people because they're excited. So I would probably just say, just keep your stuff really interested. Like, people are really going to be like, oh my God, they got this. That's the key, man. And good luck on this. I can't wait to check it out. And yeah, man, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for letting me speak.
Yeah, no problem. Make sure to poke around at some of the art and stuff if you haven't yet too, so you can see some of the characters we've got out there.
Yeah, I'm on your Discord, and I'll send some of my guys from my server just to kind of come check it out and kind of get their input. So yeah, I'll try to help out as best I can.
Yeah, tell them to pop on as a $3 a month patron. Every penny helps.
Well, and there's a lot of free stuff on there.
Yeah, and there is a lot of free content on there too. So if you, my wife's pointing that out because she had a hand in a fair bit of the story. There's a fair bit that's patron exclusive for sure, but there is also a fair bit that's free and public, including some stuff related to the factions and a little story related to them. So definitely worth a look if you're into that sort of thing.
Cool, man. Yeah, I'll go check it out here in a little bit.
All right, I will jump down.
So there was a couple questions that I just wanted to know, because obviously, like, I haven't been paying much attention to Discord and whatnot. So is there going to be the options to pay for things, or is it specifically designed mainly for only free to plays?
You can pay for stuff, just nothing that's going to be advantageous. So anything you
keep in mind, I'm Aussie here, so I don't know what advantageous means.
So basically, I don't know if you're familiar with League of Legends or Fortnite. Both of those games are completely free to play. Anything you purchase is just for looks. That's all it is. It's just going to change the way that things look.
Like skins and stuff like that. Yeah, okay, I can deal with that.
Yeah, so we plan to, and I thought it was kind of funny that Top War started to do, I think, hero skins or something is what I saw. I was like, that's hilarious. Because that's been part of our plan for a while. But that's basically it, is you're going to have hero skins for every hero. You're going to have base skins. We're actually going to break it down to unit skins, where you don't, like in Top War, you have a March skin, which, yeah, okay,
yep.
They're kind of cool, whatever. Some of them are kind of fun. We're planning to actually make it so on your world map, you actually see your units in relation to what you're sending. The part of the reason for that is, if I'm fighting you and I can see your march, I have a rough idea of what you're sending. So it plays into the strategy a little bit. We also have a fog of war system. So you're going to have large areas you can't see, which then implements more strategy. But from a skin standpoint, we're talking about actually letting you break your skins down by unit type. So one of the ones we've thrown out there before is like your cavalry. We might have a headless horseman skin. So you could have headless horseman cavalry, but then for your meat shields, you might have like a Sparta skin where you're going to have a bunch of Spartans. So you have this weird mix of units because hell, that's what you want. And maybe your archers are bunny rabbits throwing eggs. I mean, it could be, just depends on the skins we come up with. But the point is, you'll be able to have flexibility there, and then you'll have base skins. We're talking about also adding in a pet system, which is pretty exciting for a lot of people. Pets, again, will be nothing but visual. They'll just be there as sort of a fun, cool thing that you can kind of show off. We've even talked about like purchasable projectiles, meaning your catapult would normally shoot boulders, rocks, or whatever, but maybe you spend some money and now it shoots cows, or maybe it shoots turkeys, or whatever. And then, of course, you add some cool sound effects, some cool visual effects, so it's just fun, right? We've talked about different emotes that we might sell, and along with this, because I'm sure you've probably seen me rant in some of these channels before on different servers, Mewtwo, but
Yep.
I hate the greed and laziness of the developers. We don't want to just make stuff that's purchasable. We also want to make stuff that is only obtainable through playing the game. So we do want there to be skins and even trophies. We've talked about a trophy system where the only way to get certain things is sometimes by a quest or by some major pain in the butt task. So only a few people in the game will probably ever have it. But then we also want these things to be tradable so that you, as the player that did win this thing, can then trade it to another player. So there.
You forgot about convenience items.
Achievement.
Yeah, for me, I know like the way I am, if I'm playing a game, like I used to play World of Warcraft like crazy. And I always prided myself on, and I think Arisot's in this chat, he is very aware of this. We went to high school together and played games together a lot. I prided myself on being the guy that would run in and do stupid stuff. I would intentionally do things that I shouldn't be able to do, try to fight more stuff than I should be able to, just because I wanted it to be hard. And the game itself was not very hard. So
Jenkins moment.
yeah, I mean, basically, but I've always liked pushing. So like I would go through and I would tank stuff as a druid in cat form, and my healers hated it, but they knew I knew what I was doing. And so it was fun. Like we had a lot of fun. But the reason I mentioned that is for the game design with this game, I very much plan to put in those things that you're going to try a dozen times and be like, that's impossible. And then you're going to run across the one guy in the game that's done it and has the trophy or the achievement or whatever. And you're going to be like, how the hell? And that's like a phenomenal feeling for that person. And then it makes you want to push to figure out how to do this. Like, that's just exciting. So we want to build that stuff in. We are going to have an achievement system. There's a lot, obviously, we want to build in. What makes it into the base game is questionable. We're actually refining those details and trimming a lot of stuff down to, okay, what's the minimum we can release for testing? What's the minimum we can release for a beta, like a closed beta, and get away with in a Kickstarter? Because as soon as we have a testable game, we have proof of concept, we can push for funding. And that's not just Kickstarter, that's grants and all kinds of stuff. If we get enough funding, we can work on either hiring more developers, like more development teams, or paying more designers and stuff to actually do, or not designers, artists and stuff to do more of our modeling and stuff. So there's a lot to build in, and funding's a big aspect of that, which we believe as soon as we get the alpha started, that funding is going to start really trickling in a big way.
I use my money.
They can't hear you. She's like, they use all my money. So on that note, a couple things for anyone listening that may care. Roadmap is something Coolstro is presently working on. We're actually all discussing it. He's got a layout for it. We want to make a very clear effort to always be transparent for one, but we also want to try to give realistic goals and timelines. Our original ones were not unrealistic until you factored in our schedules and the unforeseen, because all of us work regular full-time jobs and most of us have kids. So there's that. That's why we're reaching out to a development team. We're going to try to set more realistic goals based on the schedule we have from these developers and things that we're working on to give you guys a very clear timeline. We also are working on making a little visual for those of you that do participate in Patreon. so that you can see where the funds are going. That's more than anything, again, just for transparency's sake. We want people to understand where the funds are going, and we've discussed even showing where the funds not from Patreon have gone, which is a lot more than Patreon has brought in so far. But just to kind of give people a little bit of a good idea of what's really going into this project, so that you guys understand it's not just gamers playing it, making games, like I've mentioned a few times to people before.
Yeah.
It's a little bit more real than that.
And you
Yeah,
mentioned pets.
Yeah.
What when I think of pets, I straight away think of this, of getting a pet and training it up and making it powerful. Would that be something you would be incorporating?
As of this moment, that is not the plan.
Okay.
We've talked about different creatures and things like that, different ways to potentially utilize such things. But as of this moment, no. Pets would be strictly a visual thing. Maybe they go along with your march. Maybe they show up when you're doing the dungeon system if we incorporate that. Maybe they show up in the arena. Maybe they just show up on your profile picture and wander around your profile picture, which does exist in some games. There's a bunch of different plans there, as well as we've already had several discussions on how you'll acquire those kinds of things. So that's been all over the place a little bit. My wife's had some good ideas, because every time I mention pets to a female, they squeal a little.
Oh, perfect. This definitely sounds like a game I'd be interested in. I mean, Top War is great and all, but I mean, like, the only thing I really sense achievement on is when I'm crafting materials for equipment. That's the only real achievement there is.
Yeah.
Everything else is all paid for, and now they've bought out a event where you can pretty much buy all the materials. Like, well, okay, the one thing that was a good reward system is now gone.
Well, I've told most people with these games, usually you start out playing either because you just like the genre and you're like, sweet, I'm going to find one that's not super pay to win, or because you were misled by an ad like Wolverine had said earlier. I think that was his name. whatever. He has the Wolverine icon there. Anyways, so usually it's one of those things. You play it for a couple weeks, and then eventually it starts to become more about the people than the game itself. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but the thing that the developers seem to miss, is the community and the players are their content, because they built no real content. And again, there's nothing wrong with community, obviously. That's huge. The focus should be community and quality, period. But they don't build in mechanics. They don't build in any actual gameplay. They just expect you to do it all. So they build in a couple of simple features and they're like, all right, have fun. And it's like, that's not a game. That's like a job, a thing that you're going to pop on. You're going to do a bunch of mundane tasks over and over. And you might get to do some PvP in this war game once a week. Like, what is that?
Yeah.
So anyhow,
PvP is quite boring.
Yeah, we're gonna build XP into PvP. We're gonna build looting into PvP. We plan to build XP into gathering, because again, if we have that safe zone, we want those players to be able to level as well in a number of different ways. So we want players to be able to play the game how they want, but we also want everybody to serve a purpose. So like with the faction system, again, we've not sat and worked out all the specifics, but we're planning to design it so your players in the safe zone can do certain things that only players in the safe zone can do to benefit the faction. Meaning your players that are out PvPing, if we just describe this as there's a PvP and a safe zone, well, all your PvPers are going to hate on everybody in the safe zone. They're going to call them names. They're going to be like, they're useless. Why are they even playing this game? So to counter that, you just make them all serve a purpose. You give those people something that they can only do when they're in the safe zone that the people in the field need. Then the people in the field are going to be like, hey, you guys, do this thing. We need more people in the safe zone. You know, it's going to become a thing where instead of it being animosity, now it's going to be like, hey, our guys in the safe zone are the best, you know? So you want to build that camaraderie between people as much as we can, because we want that non-toxic environment.
100%. Oh, that's perfect. This sounds like a game that I'm definitely interested in. As soon as it comes out, I definitely do want to play it. And
Me too.
I'm eager for its release.
I appreciate it. So, any other questions from you two, or are you good at the moment?
No, I'm pretty sweet actually.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, no worries, man. Appreciate you guys jumping in. I mean, just so everybody knows, like we're just people. Like we're definitely nothing special or fancy yet. So our time is no more valuable than anyone else's. We're good. But I will
Perfect.
bump you back down. If anyone else has any questions, just raise your hand and let us know. Or like I've said before, just ask in the lounge. Anyone watching on Twitch, apologies if you get here. Coolstro, he's really bad at technology apparently.
Apparently.
It's not my fault. I did want to actually show something, but I can't share my screen, so I'm trying to determine what the best way is. You see, we got some sketches we've not put out yet, and we put everything out for patrons first. The exception of that is we will actually put some stuff out on Twitch kind of randomly for those people that are watching, and that's just sort of as a thanks. And then we'll show it to our patrons, of course, as well. And we did recently get some building concepts for our factions that I was thinking I could show on the stream, but we may have to delay that just because of the way we're doing it.
Yeah.
And my wife is now standing here dying behind
I'm
me.
dying actively.
Oh god.
Yes. It's a great scenario. But yeah, we're wrapping this up. So if anyone else has any questions, speak now, raise your hand, type something out in chat, or we'll wrap this up and I'm gonna head to bed here in a minute.
Yeah, same. That's why I'm getting quiet. Yeah, thanks for joining us, guys. I guess I'm going to exit quietly as Discord wants me to.